Hey everyone, this is Throbby with Large Lads, and I have a lot of news for you guys about Blood of Dawnwalker. Before we get started, if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, like, and comment. And if you are subscribed to the channel, please also like and comment. It helps us out a ton. In the comments, let us know what kinds of content you want to hear more about. And without any further ado, let's jump into the video. Blood of Dawnwalker is a single-player, open-world dark fantasy RPG developed by Rebel Wolves, former Witcher and Cyberpunk devs. This game is led by Witcher 3's director, and you can see it all over the game. The setting is a dark, alternate 14th century Europe. The vibe is Eastern Europe, Transylvanian or Carpathian Valley, in the aftermath of a plague or a war, and vampires now rule the lands. The premise of this game is humans are kept alive as blood supply, weekly blood mass donations are done, and the humans are given medicine and protection. In return, our main character, our protagonist, is Cohen, who is a human by day and vampire by night. The core hook is a day-night cycle, radically changes traversal, combat, and access routes, and NPC guard reactions based on if it's daytime or nighttime. This game has been called a narrative sandbox, but there is a time pressure system. You have 30 days and 30 nights to save your family. Time advances mainly when you complete major objectives, and there is a hourglass indicator. Gameplay is broken up into daytime gameplay, which is slower, grounded, and features more investigation and social approaches. Day-only magic is used, such as Compel Soul, to speak with the dead. On the other hand, nighttime gameplay is much faster. Vampire movement is unlocked, rooftop walls are traversable, shadow step is a type of magic you can use at night, stealth and hostile zones unlock, real-time, faster combat, think claws, think biting, but your sword is still usable. The combat is very Witcher. Think dodges, think timing, think positioning, but with additional violence, monster fights, finishers, and it looks far less predictable than it did in The Witcher. The game is designed to be replayed many times. Large chunks of content are intentionally unreachable in one run, forcing you to come back and do multiple playthroughs to experience all of the content. Estimated playthroughs are between 40 to 50 hours. Rebel Wolves just dropped the official soundtrack, and it is on the nose. When you think Witcher DNA, you listen to this, and it is all over the place. The kind of Slavic folk music is really strong here, and I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to play this and get that same feeling that I got when I played The Witcher 3 and just listen to all of that background music. Time for some speculation, time for some things that I want to talk about, and the first one is the release date. So we know that this game is supposed to come out in 2026. Obviously, it could be delayed, but the fact that they're telling us already that it will be coming out this year leads me to believe that they're pretty confident that it's actually going to come out this year. I'm expecting them to release more information during the Summer Games Fest in June, and my guess is a Q3 release, but it could go as far as Q4. You never really know. I think this might be the first true good vampire RPG in years. I think Vampire the Masquerade just came out and it was not very good. Other games I think of, well, not a traditional RPG, but the game V Rising was a lot of fun. Aside from that, I can't think of any good vampire games that came out for a long time. But let's not forget the awesome Witcher 3 DLC, Blood and Wine, which had a very strong vampire theme, and maybe is part of the inspiration for this game. I've said it a few times now, but Rebel Wolves has a really strong Witcher 3 DNA. There's a clear pedigree shown in their quest design, tone, and camera work. On a positive note though, Blood of Dawnwalker feels inspired by The Witcher, not copying it. Seems like there's a bit more systemic freedom than The Witcher's linear structure. The setting and tone, while also Eastern European, seems a bit more Carpathian or Transylvanian, which is a bit of a contrast to The Witcher's Polish style. I do appreciate, while they've added vampires, they're keeping it as a grounded medieval horror instead of a high fantasy, which I think will really suit this game well. The vampires will feel like the ruling class or the nobles, not monsters in hiding. The interesting world-building design to have humans be a blood supply, a blood mass ritual reinforces oppression, horror comes from the systems and not just jump scares. Nighttime in this game has a general uneasy feeling, and all of the cinematics featuring vampires reinforce the creepy and eerie tone that I think the developers are trying to portray. But I think one of the really interesting mechanics of this game is the 30-day and 30-night time limit. You're given tons of options. You can rush the main antagonist right away or prepare and take as much time as you'd like. Skipping content is intentional. You're not going to have enough time to do everything. This game is meant to be played in multiple playthroughs. Player agency really feels respected here, and I appreciate the devs for making this choice. Generally, this can be really risky, and I think this is a bold move that will pay off. Per the devs, there's no main quest or side quest. All the stories are treated as equal threads. Get rid of that checklist mentality. The whole world is cohesive and everything applies to everything. Nothing is more important. The only thing that has to be done is saving your family. All of the quests in between are just regular quests. This reinforces the replayability by design. Content will be locked behind timers, choices, day or night. You can't do everything. Multiple valid versions of the same story will exist. Not every playthrough will be the same. Your second playthrough, though, will feel justified, not just optional. And with 40 to 50 hour playthroughs, it's going to take a long time to experience all of the different outcomes. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is actually what I'm nervous about when it comes to this game. Because as excited as I am, you always need to check your hype. There's a few areas that I'm kind of watching closely. The biggest one is how the time pressure holds up long term. I do really like the idea of having 30 days and 30 nights, and I like that time only advances when you commit major objectives. That said, I do wonder if over multiple playthroughs that pressure starts to feel more restrictive than motivating. Right now it feels tense in a good way, but that balance is delicate. If players ever feel rushed into doing content instead of just choosing it, that could undercut the whole sandbox appeal. Another thing I'm keeping an eye on is the late game balance, especially with the vampire abilities. The night gameplay looks incredible. Fast movement, healing bites, shadow stepping. But if the vampire power scales too hard, there's a risk that human daytime side becomes more of a chore than a meaningful choice. The whole appeal is both sides matter, so I really hope the game continues to give a strong reason to engage with both. I'm also a little nervous on how deep the consequences actually go. The game talks a lot about narrative sandbox and player-driven outcomes, but that only works if choices really lock you out of things, change relationships, or permanently alter the world. If too many paths just funnel back into the same outcomes, that would be really disappointing, especially given how ambitious the structure is. And finally, I'm watching how replayability actually feels in practice. The devs have said a lot of the content is intentionally unreachable in a single playthrough, which sounds great on paper. But the key is whether those alternate paths feel meaningfully different or just slightly remixed. If a second and third playthrough really do feel like different stories, this game could really be something special. None of these individually are deal breakers, it's more cautious optimism than concern. But these are the things that will ultimately decide whether Dawnwalker is a really good RPG or a truly great one. And honestly, that cautious optimism is kind of the theme for me with this game. Because what Rebel Wolves is trying to do here is genuinely ambitious. They're not just making another open world RPG and slapping a vampire coat of paint on it. They're building systems that push against a lot of modern design norms. Time pressure, missed content, moral discomfort, real trade-offs. Those are risky choices, especially in a genre that usually bends over backwards to make sure players see everything. But that's also why Dawnwalker feels exciting. If those systems hold together, if the time pressure stays meaningful without becoming oppressive, if both human and vampire sides remain equally relevant, and if choices really do close doors instead of quietly reopening them later, then this could end up being something pretty rare. A game that actually respects player agency, not just in dialogue option, but in structure. What gives me confidence is how intentional everything feels so far. The day-night split isn't a gimmick, the narrative sandbox isn't just marketing language, even the world building, the blood rituals, the way power is framed, the lack of clear heroes. All of it is designed to reinforce the same core ideas. Nothing feels accidental, and I think that's the real test for Dawnwalker. Not whether it's polished on day one, or whether every mechanic lands perfectly, but whether it stays true to the vision all the way through. Because if it does, it's going to be the kind of game people are talking about for years. Not as a flawless RPG, but as one that dared to do things differently and mostly pulled it off. So yeah, I'm excited, but in a grounded way. I'm curious to see how these systems evolve, how bold the consequences actually get, and whether the game keeps trusting players even when that means letting them fail, missing things, making them sit with uncomfortable outcomes. If Rebel Wolves sticks the landing, Dawnwalker won't just be a good vampire RPG. It could be the vampire RPG, and that's why I'm paying very close attention to this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps immensely. Let me know what kind of content you want me to cover, and as always, have a good one.